Thanks, Maddie. Oh, I just wanted to make sure that last note rung out. Good morning. Welcome back to Channing Unitarian Universalist Church. We're glad that you joined us for worship today, our first service of 2025. Whoever you are, whatever your theological, spiritual, political, sexual, or racial orientation, or gender identity, you are welcome to worship here and become a part of this community. Are there any announcements this morning? Lauren? Go.
So I have printed up like accounting letters for everyone for if you filled out a pledge form and signed a pledge form last year. I have written out how much you have contributed so far this year, how much I've seen come in from you, and what your pledge was, and so then what you still owe for the remainder of the fiscal year, because our fiscal year goes from June to July, which is, a little skewed, but whatever. So I have those letters. I'm going to put them on a table in the back of the hall after church. And if you don't see one for yourself and you feel like you signed a pledge and you should just come talk to me, it could mean that you gave the pledge to someone who wasn't me and it never made it to my mailbox. And we have other pledge forms. You can always fill one out. If you look at it and you're like, oh man, things have changed since I filled this out and I'd like to make an adjustment, you can talk to me about that too.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Judy Campbell, your affiliated minister. And the next time I'm here, which is the second Sunday in February, correct? We're going to be doing a coffee house church. And we're going to do a moth story hour. So part of being a human being is telling our stories. Part of being a really nice human being is listening to our stories. We're going to have that opportunity. Anyone who has a story, an old tale, how they used to celebrate Christmas, their favorite fishing trip, I can tell you what mine's going to be. No, I won't. I just changed my mind. But I'm going to write up some everybody will get 5 minutes, and we will time it, because sometimes people get carried away and we need a hook. But I'd like to see your stories ahead of time to make sure that they all fit together nicely and where to put them. But you'll get plenty of notice ahead of time. And if you're feeling like, I'd love to, but I don't dare, you can write your story and I'll read it. Or one of us will read it. Or if you need a little help with your story, I'll look at it ahead of time. I will not look at it that Sunday morning. And you can't come flying in on Sunday morning and say, I want to tell a story, because I will have mapped it out. I know that sounds very rigid for Unitarians, but in order to have it work for all of you, that's what I need to do. So heads up.
Any other announcements? Okay, then I will hand the pulpit back over to Reverend Judy.
Good morning again. I'm taking my readings this morning from a book called One and Universal, and it's a collection of prayers and meditations and short essays from Unitarian ministers around the world. And this is from Elsbeth Valance from New Zealand, Increasing Our Awareness. Those present may call upon the spirit within them or the spiritual powers beyond them to increase their awareness. May each of us be in tune with the universe. There is so much in this life that we take for granted. Let us today become more aware of those things for which we should never cease to be thankful. We are here together, like-minded people, arriving after different journeys, ready to respect and learn from each other, ready to search together for the meaning of our puzzling lives, indeed, for the great puzzle and wonder of life itself. Our journey is not ended, but now we take it together in companionship. As we travel, may we grow in wisdom and as spiritual people, let us be aware of the great miracle that our different paths have led us to discover about each other. May it be so. And our opening song is a familiar one. Chalice. It says right here. Chalice lighting.
Please stand as you are willing and able and speak the words found in your order of service. Kindling this flame of our liberal heritage in our chalice of community, let us open to the presence of the sacred. And now the affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
May it be so. And now, while you're standing, our opening hymn is number 38, Morning Has Broken. Please be seated. And before I go into the time for children, I wanted to share with you a story about that particular hymn. I did a funeral before Christmas in the Duxbury Church, and the gentleman that we were honoring had requested before he died that this song be sung at his funeral because he loved it. In the preparations for the funeral, I was talking with the family, and his daughter used to be a student of mine at Lesley, and we grew very close. And she was laughing as she said, "My dad could not carry a tune in a bucket. He sang in the key of off. We told him, Dad, don't sing. Please, don't embarrass us. But when it came to this song, he loved it so much, all bets were off. And he was allowed to bellow forth whatever came through his face. And that's that's the example of the kind of story that we'll tell next week, or in 5 weeks, I think. Just short, sweet. They don't have to have a message. They can just be something that happened that you want to share with us. Funny thing happened to me on the way to Rockland this morning. Okay, now, kids. I guess I need you up. I do need you up here. If you want to come up, sit in the front rows, however you want to work it. Maybe the front row people can move to one side for just a little bit so I can. Goody, come on. Come on. Thank you, front row people. You guys can squish together. Sit in the front row because I want to. This is a story for children, but it's for everyone. There you go. You can get 3 on there. Squish it. That's okay. There, that's good. Okay. Does anyone notice anything unusual on this table? The train. I didn't put it in my basket. I decided it would be more fun. Do you see the train up there? The train? Why do you think I have a train up there? Who knows the story? Do you want to sit right up here? You want to stand right there? That's good. That's your, wherever you want to be is good. That's okay. My turn to talk. Who knows the story of the little engine that could? Most of the kids don't. You do. I'm going to tell you that story. A lot of kids today don't know that story.
We know it.
I'm,
We know it when we will.
I hope you will let me tell it. For now. This story is almost 100 years old. That's an old story. But the story goes, once upon a time, there was, whoops, how did I get the engine in front of that? I didn't need to do that. There was a little engine. And it was a sweet, happy little engine. And she pulled a great long train full of toys and good food for children on the other side of the mountain. It was a long haul. But one day, she had her stuff all loaded up, and she started up the mountain. And she came to a stop. And she tried, but the wheels would not move. What was she going to do? What were those poor children going to do? A train came along, big, important train, and she waved, flashed her lights, and she said, help, help, help. Can you please help me take the toys and the food to the children on the other side of the mountain? And the big, important train said, I don't pull trains full of toys for children. I'm way too important for that. I would, but I could, but I won't. And off he jumped. And the poor little engine said, oh, what am I going to do? And then another train came along, and it was a very old train. And she stopped the train and she said, could you please help me pull the toys and the food over the mountain for the children? And the very old train said, I'm old now. I don't have the energy anymore. I would, if I could, but I can't. And he wearily chugged off. Then, poor little engine said, what am I going to do? The kids won't have toys, the kids won't have good food to eat. What am I going to do? And then a bouncy little train came along. And she said, well, it's not very big, but it's pretty. Perhaps she flagged it down and she said, could you help me pull all this load of toys and food for the children? And the little engine said, it's kind of a big train, and I don't usually pull big trains. They just use me for turning trains around in the roundhouse and stuff like that. I've never pulled anything like that. And the little engine said, do you think you could? And the little train thought, and she thought, and she thought, and she said, what did she say? I think I can. So she hooked herself up, and she started to pull, and pull, and pull, and pull. And the whole time, you help me say it now, I think I can, I think I can. Say it with me, all of you grown-ups, I think I can, 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 I think I can. And she made it all the way to the top. and she started going down. She said, ah, I thought I could. So, nice.
See, only seconds.
Can you hold on till I finish my story? Thank you very much. Now, why do you think I told you that story? Because 3 different train engines, they could talk back then, 100 years ago, all were asked to do something, and they all made a decision. One said, I would if I could, but I can't. And another one said, I'm too old. And the little one said, I'll try. Each one of them made a decision. And sometimes we can say, I'll do that, and then we really can't, and we feel bad. Or we say, I won't do that. And then we think about it some more, we think, you know, I really could have done that. I shouldn't have been such a grump. But what did the little train say? I think I can. I think I can. That's the best thing you can say to anyone when they ask you to do something. I think I can. And if you really can't, then you say, I don't know how to read those words yet, or, you know, I'm not allowed to cross the street by myself yet, but when I can, I will help you. And that's my story for this morning.
And they time.
And that's your wrap.
Right. It says right. We wanted a little train.
Now, the little train stays here, and you go out with your teachers. Am I correct? Yes. I see it, Hey, Danny. You can return to your regular seats if you wish. Now is the time in our order of service for the sharing of our joys and concerns. If you have something, an event that happened in your life, a joyful one or a sad one that you want to share with us, now is the time to come up and share with your beloved community.
Levi? Say that again. Happy New Year's.
We want a candle for my brother-in-law who has pancreatic cancer.
What's your brother-in-law's name?
Alex Grant. Alex
Alex.
Grant has pancreatic cancer, and he's at the end of his journey.
Julie?
A candle of, I guess, hope that the upcoming election certification goes smoother than the last one.
Donna?
Joy and concern, one of my freezers in the garage decided it was not going to freeze anymore. So I have pesto.
Yes.
Candle joy and sorrow for my dog. Who has
Oh,
happy that she's not.
What was your dog's name? Junebug. For Junebug.
I'm any of us who have animals understand this. Yes, love.
I had an animal joy. I got a puppy last year, a German Shepherd puppy. And I can't tell you how many nights I sat and cried, what have I done to my life? And this past couple of weeks, she's a year and a half now, and she's turning into my best friend. I'm no longer dripping in blood.
Oh, that's funny.
Clothes and anyway, it's been a great week or so with her. She's entirely fine.
Tiffany?
I guess a joy and quasi concern. So, spent a good deal of the week after Christmas through New Year's in Maine with a good deal of two of my siblings, my parents and husband's parents. It was a bunch of our family, and it was very nice. We had time to like put together a big huge jigsaw puzzle, and it was the kind of time that it was just magic, and it was timeless. So I really enjoyed that. And the concern is that I put off reality, and tomorrow I have a big old chunk of it to kind of muster through, and it'll get done. And as I'm getting it done, I just have to remember the magic that was last year. But and I just wanted to one more joy is wish everybody a happy New Year.
And I would light a candle of sorrow and respect in memory of Jimmy Carter.
I'm Joy for our friends that just went upstairs, Josie, Jimmy's daughter, her birthday is this week.
Danny?
One of the concern, my good friend Kenny White, his brother's in the hospital down this week. His wife's parents are moving in with them because of their age, and now the children become caretakers. And his sister's husband, Terrence, in the early 90s, still in the district. Along with many other family things that going on.
I'm going to light one because my, oh, sorry.
One more.
Yep. Well, I have one too. Good. Okay. My brother got engaged on Christmas Eve, and my brother's last name is Hannah, and his fiance's first name is Hannah. And so we will soon have Hannah in the family because she is 100% changing her last name so she can be Hannah. Debbie?
I enjoyed, Erin will be, having a birthday on Tuesday. Just wanted to share.
Yes.
I have a joy that for everyone really, because my mother is still talking about how much she enjoyed the candlelight service on Christmas Eve, and really enjoyed meeting Reverend Judy. And then she left before she met anybody else. But that's her early confessions.
Me too.
Joy that I get this Sunday on the morning of my
All right, and then I will light one last candle for all those joys and concerns that we hold deeply within our hearts.
Thank you. May we enter into the silence of prayer and contemplation, holding these joys and concerns, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts. I'm going to read this first. Maddie, I'm going to read this first. This is a New Year meditation written by Karol Haspel from the Czech Republic. And this was written following the death of Norbert Čapek in Dachau. And Norbert Čapek is the person who started our flower communion. We reach again for the plow to turn the furrow anew. There is unknown soil in front of us, maybe full of stones, roots, and thistles, dry and poor. It will be necessary to seize the plow with strong hands, to place it deep into the soil, with concentrated power and attention toward all obstacles we may encounter on the path. Nothing will discourage us from going into the struggle against all obstacles, because we believe that you will be with us. You will empower us in this work, which brings pearls of sweat to our forehead with with which this thirsty soil will be watered. We believe that not even the greatest difficulties will cause us to break down and abandon our goal. However great the effort and however great the trouble, there is trust in our help. We believe that we need not fall down onto that hard, rocky soil, even when we feel deep tiredness, for love can refresh us with a gentle wind and the moist air and invigorate us further towards new efforts to make fallow this earth and make it fertile. We believe that from the seed we sow in the plowed soil, good young corn will grow, and our work will not be in vain. For you and love will bless us with endeavors for our success. May it be so. And now let's sing 123, Spirit of Life. You may remain seated. When we give to the work of this church, we say yes to what we believe in. We will now take up our Sunday offering, and we are grateful. Rick, do you have a reading for us?
Dedication of the gifts.
Oh, Jesus.
Spirit of life.
If you would stand for our dedication of gifts, we're going to sing Spirit of Truth. I think it's in the bulletin. Yes.
If it's not, it's on. Is it in the book?
It is.
You have it?
Apologies, I think I. It's all right, you wouldn't have been able to read it anyways. All right. The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. "Mend my life," each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
Thank you. Once upon a time, about 1,000,000 years ago, when I was fresh out of college and teaching kindergarten in Milton, Massachusetts, the story of the little engine that could was as familiar as the story to the children as the story of Stone Soup or the Christmas story now. Now, not so much. The last time I told the story of the little engine that could in a church was in Transylvania in 1994 in English. It was translated on the spot, word for excruciating word, by a Hungarian-speaking naturalized American who was a member of our Unitarian partner church touring group. I use the word excruciatingly deliberately because the story fell flat on its face. Of course, I didn't know that because the children, polite and courteous down to their shiny little toenails, said nothing. They just stared up at me and listened in what appeared to be rapt attention. And their parents, courteous and deferential to the ways of their clueless American benefactors and well-wisher and minister, did much the same. No one ever said a word. The only way I found out was years later, when some of the same Unitarian clergy were visiting us, and we'd all had a few glasses of wine, did I learn that my well-intentioned, perfectly translated time for all children was far, far too long in the telling, completely out of their frame of reference. They had never heard of a talking train with high expectations. And best of all, they never did a special interaction with their kids in church ever in the 3-hour service. The kids just sat with their mothers in the women's section with knitted blankets wrapped around them in an unheated church. Yes, when I was there, the women and the children sat separately from the men. I don't know if that is still the practice, but I'm inclined to think it is, because tradition, especially Hungarian and Transylvanian tradition, is vitally important to a group of Transylvanians, a group of people who, after the First World War and the stroke of a pen, were no longer Hungarian Transylvanians, but Romanian Transylvanians. And they were now strangers in their own land, in their own hometowns and villages. Now, they would always be second-class citizens. What held these people together in the little villages and what they fiercely held on to were their familial and cultural religious traditions. It is how they maintained their identity and passed their cultural pride and heritage onto their children in the world they found themselves in, but was not of their making. I learned a lot on that trip. Another story. When I was a young mother and trying to stretch $1 as far as it would go, I was talking to a friend about the best and most economical way to make a Sunday roast beef dinner using the cheapest cut of beef I could find. Spell that, afford. She suggested, excuse me, that I come over, I'm struggling with a frog, that I come over and watch her prepare her meal, and in that way I could learn, because we all know there are some things that happen in a kitchen that can be never written in a recipe book. Julie and I know that. So there I was, standing in her kitchen as she made her preparations. First thing she did after unwrapping the roast and before setting it into the pan was to slice about 3 inches off the narrowest part and set it aside to cook separately. I'd never seen that done before. Why did you do that? I asked. What does that do for the roast? No idea, she said, shrugging her shoulders. My mother always did it when she cooked a roast, and I must have learned it from her. I said nothing, but I thought plenty. After a while, when the roast was in the oven and the spare bit was back in the fridge to be cooked up as a steak or as part of a stew, I asked if she ever thought of asking her mother why she always cut the end off a roast before putting it in the oven. After telling me the thought had never occurred to her, it's just what she always did, she said. It just was, and now that's what I always do. It never occurred to me to ask why. But now that I'd made her curious, she would call her mother right there and then and ask about the long-standing practice. Tradition? Was it some sort of generosity ritual, like leaving an empty chair lest a stranger come into the door? Remember, this is back when people had one house phone, and it was always in the other room. When my friend returned to the kitchen after making the call, she was giggling and shaking her head. And I asked, "You're not going to believe this," she said. My mother only had one roasting pan, and it was very small. In order to get the roast to fit in, she always cut the smaller end off and saved it for later. She never thought to buy a smaller roast or get a bigger pan? I asked. "Nope," she said, still laughing. "It's what we did. No reason to question. It worked." Case closed. I asked, "Are you ever going to cut the end off a roast before cooking it again?" She gave me a curious look, and after a couple of thoughtful moments, she said, "I honestly don't know. It's what I do." Remember now, the title of my message way back when is Out with the Old and In with the New. So my question for today is simply getting rid of the old and making room or adopting the new always the best approach? I was brought up in an era of make, do, and mend. Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without, or even more to the point, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think you can probably see where I'm going with this. Moderation in all things, including moderation. New just because it's new is not always good. And old just because it's old is not necessarily bad. Just look at me. That was a rhetorical question. Perhaps we might rethink this too, out with some things and practices and habits, and in with some new ideas, activities, and adventures, and the wisdom to know the difference. But since you asked, in my opinion, automatically hanging on to one and rejecting the other does not make sense. Ask your mother or your father about cutting the end off the roast before putting it in the oven. Or ask yourself why a multi-generational Italian American who hasn't gone to church in years will always serve a meal with 7 fishes on Christmas Eve. Or a secular Jew who will not set a foot in a synagogue or temple still celebrates the feast of Passover with family and is vaguely uncomfortable consuming both milk and meat in the same meal. Old habits die hard. So let's get back to the point. This is a Sunday service after all, and it is in a UU church. What have Unitarians let go of? What have we kept? And what have we taken on? We've let go of original sin, the idea that we are born pre-tainted, pre-cursed, and must ever be working on cleansing and purifying our soul so we can go to heaven, which we don't believe in, when we die and be with God, which we question. Nope, not happening. We let go of the concept of the Trinity, the idea that an old man, white father figure, God figure, has three distinct manifestations: God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, or the divine mystical essence. The idea that marriage, we let go of the idea that marriage can only be between a cisgendered man and a woman. We have let go of ironclad religious dogma and replaced it with what we call a living tradition, a religious practice that embraces change as an evolving understanding of the truth in the light of new learning and evidence. We are more of a curious and reason-based tradition than an ironclad faith based on dogma and tradition. And what have we taken on? We've taken on the freedom and the responsibility of discovering and defining our own religious and spiritual beliefs and practices, the right and the responsibility and the privilege to respectfully question authority. We are welcome to and benefit from the learning that religious pluralism offers, and through all of this, we as a group of headstrong, rugged individualists covenant to affirm and promote the gift, the privilege, and the responsibility of changing our minds. And therein for me is the key word, responsibility. It's easy to toss off responsibility for our own fortunes and misfortunes by throwing up our hands and saying, it wasn't meant to be, or God had other plans. Not my fault. Nothing in UUism suggests that we stay there in that bed. This is our fate, our lot in life, the hand you were dealt. So shut up and live with it. Nope. If you or I or a UU gets into a badly made bed, we know we have the option of staying there and complaining about it, or getting up, pulling off the sheets and the blankets, flipping the mattress, and starting over. Sometimes the effort is monumental and beyond us for a time. We might even have to ask for help turning the mattress, but we still have a choice. What and how we choose and what actions we will take. This past week, we as a nation witnessed the loss of President Jimmy Carter. He was a man who lived his faith and his love for his God and his fellow earthlings out loud. He lived his faith out loud. We also witnessed the death of two other men who lived their faith and their hate out loud. All three of these men acted out of deeply embodied convictions of what was right and what was wrong. These men made choices. Choices have consequences. Every minute, every day, we make choices. Some of these choices are examined choices, others are knee-jerk reactions based on what we've always been taught to believe, or what we've always done. No thinking required. It's January 5th, the 5th day of a brand new year that is still wet behind the ears. In the coming days of this fledgling year, what will you choose? What will you hang on to? Will you hang on to what you've always done because that's what you do, and it's so much easier that way? Or when faced with a choice of options, will you stop and get up off your hands and knees and consider, take note, think about, explore the extent and the ramifications of your options, and only then make that choice? May it be so. We're going to sing hymn number 345. With joy we claim the growing light. After that, we will extinguish the chalice, and then we will have the benediction. Yeah, please stand as you're willing and able. please, would you come up and please be seated for the extinguishing of the chalice?
We extinguish this flame, but the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment, these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I apologize for these croakies. From Lene Lund Schumacher from Denmark. We believe that the mountains and the valleys, the sorrows and joys of life cannot be confined to formula or dogma, that humankind is a mystery, open and questioning. We have no sure answers to the basic questions of life, but we have faith in the existence of a universal love power which can be envisioned in many different ways. And we assume that all religions spring from this same source. Let us pray and work for the day when we all may live in harmony with our environment, that we and all of humanity may learn to live in peace, and that we may nourish and develop our understanding of both our neighbors and ourselves in the days to come. Amen. And go in peace, my friends. I love it when she riffs a little bit. Encourage the riffs. Encourage the riffs. Coffee is coming, I believe.